Okay, people, Dolton's former police chief, the guy who just was fired after the Lightfoot report, has been indicted on bankruptcy fraud. Wow. Okay, Tiffany Henyard's #1 cop has now been indicted for bankruptcy fraud.
We have some breaking news coming in from the south suburbs right now. The acting police chief of Dolton has been charged with bankruptcy fraud. Lewis Lacey is accused of filing misleading statements in his 2019 bankruptcy case. Lacey is a close ally of Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard.
Now, Chief Lacey is an interesting character, to say the least. I'm gonna let my boy Tommy G tell you a little bit about Chief Lacey.
The man you see here is Deputy Chief Lacey. While you might look at him and think he's a Walmart version of Detroit urban survival, he actually is a man with a disciplinary report thicker than the Bible. He currently has 3 active lawsuits against him. All 3 of them allege violations of the Constitution for the acts he is committing. Let me share some of his past actions with you so you can get a picture of the man he is. Let's start with his petty incidents. One of his reports details him threatening the water company over a $300 bill he didn't want to pay. He's also known for trying not to pay tolls when he drives through them. But things get more serious. Many residents have banded together to note his excessive use of force and his use of the taser. In a 2012 incident, he was sued for 4th Amendment constitutional violations due to excessive force. Lacey lost this case and the judge ordered payment of $12,000 for the incident. In the summer of 2021, 19-year-old Alexis Wilson was shot 7 times and killed by Dolton police. Her mom emailed us twice, pleading with us to expose Officer Lacey. Activists Carlos West and Rabbi Michael McLeenan protested this killing 7 days later, exercising their constitutional right to free speech. However, their rights were violated by Officer Lacey once again when he ordered their arrest without due cause. They filed a lawsuit, and on March 4th, both of these men were awarded $50,000 in settlements. This is one of Mayor Tiffany's lead lapdogs that she uses to control the town through his goonish actions. Another case he was involved in resulted in the largest settlement in Cook County history, $33.5 million.
You guys step over there on public property.
This is not public property. Where is the public property?
Now, you gotta go over to Tommy G's channel and check that video out when Lacey harassed Tommy G. Now, Lacey was just mentioned in the Lightfoot report.
Well, once again, based on the board's directive, different individuals aren't following the board's directive. There was a deputy chief that was placed on administrative leave. He disregarded that and showed up the very next day. He then received a notice that he was terminated, and he despite being notified that he was terminated and in discussions with the Fraternal Order of Police, the FOP, he again showed up today.
So Lacey was put on administrative leave. He came to work anyway. He was fired. He came to work anyway. Now, all that occurred on or about August 8th, 2024. Now, when I'm shooting this video, it's actually August 12th, 2024. So 4 days later, now Lacey has been indicted for bankruptcy fraud. Now, we are going to read this complaint to see what's going on in Dolton. Now, the weird part about this is the second person in Tiffany Henyard's administration to be indicted on bankruptcy fraud charges. Remember Keith Freeman?
As WGN Investigates was first to report today, a top aide to Dolton Mayor Tiffany Henyard has been indicted for bankruptcy fraud. It comes amid ongoing questions about Henyard's spending and leadership.
And legal experts say it could be the first sign that the feds are trying to get people to share what they know about potential government corruption in the south suburbs.
Senior Administrator for Dolton and Thornton Township, Keith Freeman, pleading not guilty to bankruptcy fraud. His attorney speaking with reporters after the arraignment.
We've had a couple of questions directed to me about whether or not this indictment means that the government is effectively trying to squeeze Mr. Freeman into cooperation. And I think that question is a question better put to the government.
So, along with Keith Freeman, now Chief Lacey is indicted on bankruptcy fraud. Okay, so this is a 9-count indictment against Lewis A. Lacey, former acting police chief of Dolton. So here they talk about Lewis A. Lacey as a police officer in Dolton. They talk about the bank accounts that Lacey controlled. Then we get into the details of what happened. So the indictment talks about a case that was filed on July 22nd, 2015, in which Lacey came to a settlement agreement with the plaintiff. Now, Lacey agreed to pay the plaintiff $55,000. Now, in 2019, the plaintiff filed a motion to enforce the settlement agreement against Lacey because he had failed to pay $43,000 of the agreed upon $55,000. Now, the indictment points out something pretty interesting, that between 1984 and 2019, Lacey filed a total of 7 bankruptcies. Then the indictment goes into why we have the bankruptcy protections that we do, and it lists all the processes and procedures you needed to file for bankruptcy. Then they go on to tell us what happened in this case. All right, so the government alleges a scheme to defraud, claiming that there were material false and fraudulent representations made in relation to this bankruptcy filing. Now, the government alleges that Lacey was doing this in order to prevent the enforcement of the settlement agreement that he came to in the case we talked about earlier. Now, the reason you can do this by filing bankruptcy is a mechanism called the automatic stay in bankruptcy court. Here are a couple of lawyers explaining what that is.
The automatic stay is the core protection. It's the most important protection of your bankruptcy case at all.
Then the court issues what's called an automatic stay. That order compels creditors to stop all collection activity against the debtor. The automatic stay goes immediately into effect, and all your creditors receive notice of the stay from the bankruptcy court. Creditors can no longer file lawsuits against you or proceed with a pending lawsuit that exists in a court.
Now, in this case, the lawsuit is that 2019 settlement, and what's stopping them from collecting against Lacey is the fact that Lacey filed bankruptcy and this automatic stay. Now, the government's alleging that Lacey falsely represented his financial circumstances. Now, the government alleges Lacey did this by concealing the income of his wife, who didn't file for bankruptcy. The fact that she was, quote, contributing to payments of Lacey's expenses, including living and mortgage payments. They also allege that Lacey tried to conceal his bank accounts and how much money he had in those accounts. Now, the government alleges that Lacey filled out the bankruptcy paperwork knowing that they contained these material false statements and material admissions. And remember, all of these documents are signed under the penalty of perjury. One of the tricks the government alleges Lacey did on the bankruptcy filing is totally pretend that he and his wife had separated when they say, quote here, Lacey, well knowing that he was married, not separated, and that his non-filing spouse was residing with him, earning income and contributing to the payments of Lacey's expenses, did not disclose his non-filing wife's employment, occupation, employer, monthly income, and falsely represented that his combined monthly income was approximately $49.95. And the government alleges that if you add his wife's income to his income, which you're supposed to do in bankruptcy, it would have been substantially more. He also did things like tell the government his net income in a given month was $617. Now, former Chief Lacey is facing 9 counts. Now, that's because every time you lie on the form or lie to the government, they're charging you with 1 count. So he is being charged with 9 counts. Chief Lacey's lawyer responded to these charges.
I spoke this afternoon with Lacey's attorney. He called today's charges a witch hunt designed to get another Henyard ally to turn on her in this ongoing investigation into her spending.
That's exactly what the U.S. attorney does every single time. They start with people that they believe that they can flip. They go down the line. They show up at 6 o'clock in the morning when a person is not lawyered up, when a person is just waking up, and they're telling you, oh, I'm here to talk to you and be nice to you and don't worry about it. And you're not under arrest. And then we're going to leave and we're not going to arrest you today. But here are some questions that we have for you. So immediately a person puts his foot in the mouth and from there, the fish is caught.
Is that what they did with Lacey?
To a certain degree, yes.
So I'm not too sure what Lacey's lawyer is saying. It sounds like they had a conversation with him. He put his foot in his mouth and now they're flipping him like a fish. Who knows? But that's my opinion based on what I just heard. Now, Lacey is still continuing to come to work even after he was fired.
Now, last week, the trustees placed him on paid administrative leave. He told me he was continuing to show up to work after that because they didn't have the power to put him on leave. The village then sent him a termination letter, and I'm told he kept showing up even after his firing. Much more to come on this indictment tonight at 9 and 10. For now, we're live in Dolton. Jenna Barnes. WGN News.
Thank you, Jenna.
Lacey's employment status here in Dolton a bit cloudy right now. Last week, the trustees placed him on paid administrative leave. He told me he was continuing to show up to work after that because they didn't have the power to put him on leave. The village then sent him a termination letter, and I'm told he kept showing up even after his firing.
Now I gotta say this, what's going on with Dolton? And the feds, this is obviously what's taking so long. They're going through their flip book. First it's Keith Freeman, we got you on the bankruptcy. Now you got the police chief, hey, you're looking at some decades in prison. Tell us what you know. And okay, we haven't even talked about the overtime that you're getting that you really weren't supposed to be getting. So I think Lacey, he looks like a squealer. He looks like a snitch. He will be probably singing the tune. The lawyer's talking tough right now, but the lawyer's looking for a deal because, quote, he may have already put his foot in his mouth.
Show up at 6 o'clock in the morning when a person is not lawyered up, when a person is just waking up, and they're telling you, oh, I'm here to talk to you and be nice to you and don't worry about it. And you're not under arrest. And then we're going to leave and we're not going to arrest you today. But here are some questions that we have for you. So immediately a person puts his foot in the mouth and from there, the fish is caught.
Is that what they did with Lacey?
To a certain degree, yes.
Question for you before you get out of here. Is Lacey going to take a deal? Next question is, why hasn't like 70 of you subscribed to the channel? You're watching every video, you're enjoying this content, hit the subscribe button. And look, I'm putting this at the end of the video, so there can't be any complaints about me asking all the way through the video. But if you can, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And if you want to check us out on podcast form, check us out on any of the popular podcast platforms.
Okay, one more outburst, I'm clearing the room. Officers, clear the room. The media has to step out also. Okay, if you don't calm down, I'm going to clear the room. Okay, last time I'm gonna say it.
Guys, you out of
All
order.
right, you're out of
You're out of
order.
order.
One more disruption, I am clearing the room. All right, okay, stop, quiet, otherwise we are gonna clear the room. Okay, one more word, we're gonna clear the room, okay? All right, one more time, I'm clearing the room.
All right, clear the room. Clear the room. Clear the room. Clear the room, guys. This piece of jar, everybody out.